When a serial killer is captured, there's an elite band of experts called upon by the police to help interview the deadliest category of murderer. Psychologists, psychiatrists, and profilers, they are men and women who have spent their entire working lives face to face with some of the most dangerous killers the world has ever known.
Too many similarities for the question not to be asked, and for you not to say why.
No comment.
No comment.
They paint the image that I was this monster who picked up like these altar boys along the street and swatted them like flies. I said, this is ludicrous.
I am sorry for all the pain that my actions have caused. I am prepared to die if you say it is necessary.
After working for decades intimately with the most violent people alive, our experts have developed the skills to protect themselves.
If you don't distance yourself, it will get to you over time.
I do not want some of the stuff going through their minds to be running around inside mine.
Every time that you are called upon to do it, you have to take a deep breath and you have to go back into that darkness.
Now, for the first time, these experts have come together to see if there are any common factors in the lives of serial killers that have pushed seemingly ordinary men and women to commit this most heinous of crimes.
I don't believe anyone is born a serial killer.
We need to know the motivation and what they're getting out of it.
What's feeding their fetishes?
Lack of love, lack of family bonding, lack of affection, punishment.
Could these combined factors reach a breaking point that could push the individual over the edge and help us understand what it takes to make a monster?
Serial killing is the malign waste product of a dysfunctional culture.
For over 2 decades, a serial killer named Levi Bellfield prowled these streets in West London. He used this 10-mile square patch as a hunting ground, preying on young blonde victims. After a murderous campaign that saw him brutally take the lives of 3 young girls between 2002 and 2004, he was forced to go to ground.
Bellfield does seem to have regarded young women with a degree of contempt, just something to be used.
On the 22nd of November 2004, Bellfield's reign of terror was up. The police were moving in, and the hunter had now become the hunted. The killer left cowering in his attic, waiting to be snared.
Well, you can either interpret it as prudence on his part or cowardice.
To this day, he has refused to cooperate fully with the police.
Too many similarities, Levi. Too many similarities for the question not to be asked, and for you not to say why.
No comment.
No comment, because you can't say anything, can you?
He was charged and found guilty of 2 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder, and sentenced to life imprisonment.
A fat, loud, bullying, drug-using, promiscuous, cowardly thug.
Once in prison, the so-called bus stop killer was convicted of a further murder, that of teenager Millie Dowler, in March 2002. Labelled by the judge as a cruel and pitiless killer, he's the only serial murderer in British legal history to receive 2 whole-life sentences. Since his arrest, Bellfield has always steadfastly refused formal therapy. But Dr. Julian Boone, a forensic psychologist who's assessed hundreds of British murderers, believes the trail of devastation Bellfield left in his wake also holds enough clues as to why he became the monster he did. Right down to his now infamous no-comment interview.
And at no stage over the last 2 days have you denied any involvement in these incidences?
No comment.
Why is that, Levi?
No comment.
Even with no-comment interviews, one can learn things about the individuals being interviewed. My belief is that people like me would be only too quick to expose the fragility of his ego. And people like me would be asking questions, so why are you so close to your mother? Because there are some questions to be asked there, and he wouldn't like that at all.
Born in 1968, Bellfield grew up with a brother, 2 sisters, and a number of step-siblings on a council estate in southwest London to a family of Romany heritage. A fractured relationship with his father intensified the bond with his mother, Jean.
I think that if you look at his relationship with his family of origin, you have to try to unpick his relationship with it. Not so much his mother's relationship with him, but what he took away from his relationship with his mother.
He said his father was an alcoholic. Now that is a very strange thing for somebody of Romany stock to say about an immediate family member. And if we contrast that with the relationship which he has been reported numerously as having with his mother, as being idyllic and worshipful and that kind of thing, the imbalance that that brings is you don't get the essential building blocks of consistency. And if you don't learn consistency in upbringing, you quickly learn to do 2 things. One, not trust other people, because you never know where you are, because there's been no consistency in psychological consistency, that is, in upbringing. But also, you turn very quickly to control. Why control? Because the uncertainty that you otherwise have is unbearable, because that goes right back to your childhood, where you always had uncertainty. You didn't know whether Dad was going to come home and kick you, or whether Dad was going to come home and kiss you.
Forensic psychologist Professor Paul Britton has helped police with some of the most notorious murders of the past 20 years. Like Dr. Julian Boone, Professor Britton believes the relationship Bellfield had with his mother demands closer scrutiny.
It is the case that he seems to have had a particularly close relationship with his mother as he was growing, but it's also true that he thought of himself as belonging to a slightly separate community anyway. So he felt, it seems, that the normal rules, when I say the normal, I mean the wider rules that most people choose to adopt in the society, didn't quite apply to him.
When Bellfield lost his father to cancer, aged 10, he became even more reliant on his mother.
I think in a family unit, parents can have, both genetically and environmentally, very strong influences on children's development. If it's a very, very close relationship, it can lead to, if it's too close, it can lead to spoiling behavior, which means that the child will grow up in a very entitled, expectant way. Well, you only have to look at Bellfield's history to see that that fits very well with him.
That growing sense of isolation that Bellfield felt soon turned to frustration, which would ultimately manifest itself in anger that he would unleash with devastating effect when he found himself being rejected by the opposite sex for the first time.
I think there was a trigger event when Bellfield was about 12, 13. And apparently at this point, he was befriended by an older girl. Someone he desired, who was blonde, who was older than him, and who was superior to him. And that she then, when she had developed this relationship, rejected him. What happened to that girl was that she disappeared and was murdered. And that girl's father, very soon after this happened, had a phone call from a high-voiced, high-pitched voice young man who threatened to kill him. And the father maintained, and always maintained, that he recognized that voice as Bellfield's.
But in the absence of proof, the murderer of 14-year-old Patsy Morris remained at large. Some suggest that it was Patsy's death that triggered Bellfield's violent obsession with blondes. His pathway to serial murder was being laid. Bellfield was determined he wasn't going to suffer further rejection, and so he decided to match his physique to his own grandiose sense of self-worth. He turned to anabolic steroids as a quick fix to his confidence as well as his puny build. By his early 20s, he was 6 foot tall and 20 stone in weight.
As he starts to mature, so you have this rather gross figure physically. For many people, it might be viewed as quite grotesque, except for him, it became a very important part of his ability to get what he wanted it, and he would use it then to literally batter his way to where he wanted to be.
The fact that he felt the need to do that, and the fact that initially it seems that there was a sense of inadequacy, and it seems that he spent a lot of his time from his teenage years onwards trying to compensate for that.
His desire for the machismo and hanging out with men and drinking hard and going to pubs and things like that, and the swagger and all the rest of it, I think that will be appealing to him because it reinforces that he's a someone, you know, and has friends and all of this stuff. I mean, for goodness sake, he became a bouncer. Tells you, you know, the idea of being an enforcer, the one who can throw people out, who getting out of line and so on like that. I'm not suggesting all bouncers are like this, but he also went in for wheel clamping, and he would find it funny and amusing to clamp people. And in those days, at any rate, you could have very high fines to get your clamp removed. And he once did it to an elderly male pensioner, and he boasted about it afterwards, how he didn't care and that he was going to do it. So you can see there's absolutely zero compassion for anybody else.
In his home life, Bellfield's reinvention to macho alpha male paid off, as he fathered 11 children by 5 women. But each relationship followed the same disturbing pattern. Dr. Adrian Needs is a forensic psychologist who spent over 25 years working with murderers in British prisons. He believes that what led Bellfield to become a serial murderer was fueled in part by a need to obliterate his permanent sense of inadequacy.
It's interesting that there were reports from several former girlfriends that he was extremely controlling. Initially, he would attempt to be charming and considerate and that sort of thing, but within seems a very short space of time, then they would live in fear of him. There was one account of him, after a short space of time, taking his girlfriend's mobile phone and giving back another one that only had his number on it, because he said that was all she should need.
And on one notorious occasion, he told one girl that she was to spend the night on a stool in the kitchen and she mustn't move from there. This is when he went off to bed, so she was so scared she stayed there all night. And when the police asked about toileting and that sort of thing, she said, well, I had no option. I just had to go on the stool and I couldn't move. It's a need to demonstrate to themselves that they have power. And what we find very quickly is that they have an inner uncertainty of themselves, and that's a means by which they can compensate for feeling non-powerful.
I mean, at the end of the day, he's scared of women and scared of being rejected by women who he likes, who he's attracted to. Hence the need to control them with macho bullshit.
As much brutal pleasure as Bellfield got from abusing his partners, it was still not enough. He was about to take things up a notch, and alongside his love of violence, he was about to give flight to his sadistic sexual fantasies.
I think he looked down on women who attended nightclubs and that sort of thing. And it's almost as if he saw himself as the alpha male, just entitled to use people as he wanted to, and he didn't see anything particularly wrong in it. I think there was one occasion when, as a nightclub doorman, he drugged a young woman with rohypnol, and then I think he answered the phone to her mother, talking in very distressing detail about what he'd done, but almost with a sense of triumph.
All he required from his victim was passivity, and the drugs achieve that for you, and is not confident that he would be able to carry the rape through, even though he's beefed himself up with steroids and what have you, without some artificial aid, such as the drugs. The other is that he's scared of women.
Throughout his 20s, Bellfield's voracious appetite for sexual violence became essential to maintaining his macho man image.
The rapes that I've read about, I would say they were pretty much all in the style of the power assertion rape, but the sexual experience itself being essentially conventional. And I suppose the point is that for me, that kind of rape is not about a successful sexual experience with women. It's about trying to build yourself up as a man.
It's not enough that they know what they've done in terms of a power trip. They've got to let other people know. And by saying something like, "You won't believe what I've just done," you're building up your part and convincing them that you're someone, a powerful man. But at the same time, if they're believing you're capable of doing something absolutely outrageous and wicked and vile or whatever like that, then that's enough, because they've got respect in a weird sort of way.
Bellfield's bravado knew no bounds. He even bragged about his depravity to his girlfriend of the time.
He had gotten to the stage where he would tell her that he was going out and that he had raped other women. In one instance, she found a bin bag with a balaclava, a knife, and magazines where the faces of blonde women had been scratched out. He told her at one point he had pulled a disabled woman from a wheelchair and raped her. And he told her that he hated blondes and that they were evil effing bitches. They deserved to die.
From that moment on, Bellfield made it his mission to turn those chilling fantasies into cold-blooded murder.
He was going out, and almost on a daily basis, he was marauding in his cars and his van, looking for now female victims. But the signal thing was that at some point in the back of his mind was this hatred of blondes, and not just any blondes, blondes who were superior to him, blondes who might reject him.
Stalking starts to feed the need for power and control and coercion, and then gradually you escalate it, and you then move up a level to murder, and brutal murder at that.
When people think of his victims as being chosen opportunistically, that's only partly true, because he had a template of victims that he was looking for. So a young person needed to meet a particular sort of description. And this is where his planning came into play. I mean, this is a person who would track buses in order to look who was in there, who was getting off where, and cruise areas in order to be working out where's the best place to be, where shouldn't you be. So opportunistic, yes, but opportunistic in the context of reasonably careful planning.
Dr. Samantha Lundrigan has worked alongside the police on major crime investigations and believes that Bellfield was meticulously organized when it came to hunting his victims.
Within cities or with the cities or towns, there are ebbs and flows to the day-to-day routine, routines of people. In the morning you get commuters coming in and then commuters coming out at the end of the day, and then the things change once you get to the nighttime economy, and he will have been well aware, intimately connected with all these different changes in the environment, and really attuned to when and where was the most likely that he would identify a target that was suitable.
After Bellfield was caught, police were able to make what is known as a geographical profile of the area where the murders happened. It demonstrated clearly that Bellfield was a creature of habit, and indeed habitat, who lived and worked and killed on his own doorstep.
When you look in amongst the crime pattern as well, you see he has a number of bases in this small area of West London that he knew so intimately, and that's what he did. He capitalised on his knowledge of the environment and used it to identify suitable victims.
Choosing public transport hubs, specifically bus routes, as hunting grounds enabled Bellfield to spot young women getting off the buses at night, making them perfect targets for his murderous intentions.
So his choice of public transport routes and bus stops in particular simply was a rational decision as the best way to identify vulnerable women who he could then isolate. We are talking about London, which is a busy place, even late at night in some respects. So what that allowed him to do was observe women as they got off their buses, and then inevitably had to walk some distance to get home. And he would find that opportunity, that perfect point in time and space where it was a lone woman, and he would use that to strike in a blitz-style attack, spend very little time with most of them, and be in and out almost immediately.
And this is how, on the 21st of March 2002, Bellfield is thought to have zeroed in on his first known victim, 13-year-old schoolgirl Millie Dowler.
I think it's within his capability to have seen the victim on her own, a young girl dressed in school uniform, just walking, and my personal belief is he used some sort of scam to entice her behind the hedge. So quick, can you help me? I don't know, my cat, can you help me find my cat, my dog, or something like that? And she would have gone in on a scam, and once behind the front door, well, hate to think.
Millie's disappearance triggered a massive manhunt, with hundreds of police officers combing the local area where she disappeared. Despite a £100,000 reward for information, no trace of Millie was found, or clues that Bellfield was involved, even though he lived in a flat just a few hundred yards away from where she went missing.
He was only there for 5 months, and so very quickly, and he was very clever, and he did this after most of his crimes, he went to great lengths to distance himself from the crimes that he'd just committed. So after that crime, he moved out of there extremely quickly. He got rid of the car that he'd been driving that day, as he did, which was a pattern that he repeated time and time again. He even went out of the country for a period of time. So he was very clever and very calculating. He knew he was connected deeply to those environments, but he did what he could afterwards to disassociate himself from them.
It was 6 months before Millie's body was finally discovered, 30 miles away from where she disappeared.
My involvement was the examination of the remains of Millie Dowler, in fact just the skeletal remains, to help confirm the identity of the body that had been found. And really from that I can say that there was no evidence of any significant violence, particularly no violence to her head, that was so common in other cases that Bellfield was involved in.
Bellfield would have been boosted by the fact that Millie's body took so long to recover and had left no trace of evidence behind, empowering him to go on to kill again.
In Millie's case, his treatment of the body kind of suggests mainly that he was just doing what he thought was forensically prudent. You know, stripping the body, taking it to a remote spot, leaving it in a ditch. Why he didn't, why he didn't go further and bury the body, I don't know. Presumably he lacked the opportunity, or perhaps he was just lazy.
This would be what they call, relatively speaking, an organised offender who tends to choose strangers as victims. And again, there's an element of power. While you're getting it on the domestic scene, you're being brutal to your female partner. If you're doing it to someone random, then that's even more potent, isn't it? Because they're going to say, why me? I've done nothing to you, that sort of thing. You only have to look at poor Millie to see why. She must have been wondering all the time, why me? Why is he doing this to me?
Millie Dowler's murder was to remain unsolved for almost a decade. Less than a year later, in February 2003, Bellfield targeted a second victim. 19-year-old Marsha McDonnell was attacked with a hammer to the back of the head after getting off a bus in Kingston-upon-Thames. Just 15 minutes later, she was found by a neighbour, collapsed on the pavement, just yards from home. She died in hospital hours later. Just like most serial killers, Bellfield has by now clearly established a victim group that he's targeting. Attractive, young, blonde women whom he's convinced would be repulsed by him and reject any sexual advances he might make.
I think of other situations where men develop a very clear specification of women who they really would like to find them attractive, but they, inside their own world, know, in inverted commas, that they will never look at them, and so they hate them. So that there's no real exchange, there's never been an approach, there's never been a rejection, but the person simply knows, in effect, that she's too good for me, and I'll have the bitch for that.
It's when he's rejected. It's when he's rejected by someone of a particular appearance and who he sees as rejecting and spurning him. And as a man with his experience, that would be a particularly provocative insult.
The roots of narcissism often occur if somebody has been rather indulged as a child. It can also happen if somebody felt inferior, maybe outside of the family, and that they had to overcompensate for the feelings of inadequacy. And it seems that both might have been the case in Bellfield's case.
By now, Bellfield had found that only extreme violence could provide him with validation for inadequacies. Fueled by a growing drug habit, his mood swings were frequent and terrifying, his life becoming increasingly defined by uncontrollable rages.
This is a man who's given to explosive rages within the context of his planning and preparation to move from quiet, charming, placid behavior to raging cruelty, apparently in a moment. This is truly frightening for people. It's also a tool that the offender will use to get what he wants, and that may very well be the death of someone.
Bellfield's insatiable desire to kill continued. But as he targeted a third victim, 18-year-old Kate Sheedy, on the 28th of May, 2004, she sensed something was wrong as soon as she got off the bus.
She crossed the road to get away from him because he was cruising and asking to talk to her. And it was that caused him to run her over, then run back over her, and then run forwards again, leaving her with multiple injuries. And miraculously, she survived and was able to give some form of evidence, which itself was traumatic for her. However, what was telling was immediately after that shocking incident, he went off on a high-speed drive, allegedly through red lights and things like that, and then goes and sits on the riverbank calmly, all of which is so much in line with power assertiveness and having a power phase, but that's very high risk.
Indeed, it is no coincidence that Bellfield would use his car as a murder weapon. He had a lifelong obsession with old cars that extended to the necrophilic.
People think of necrophilia as having sex with dead bodies. That's not what necrophilia actually is, although it can express itself in that form. That's not really what it is. It's more of a fascination with cold inanimate objects or with ordure, and cold inanimate objects like old cars fit the bill very well. And there seems to have been an element of that in his background, as far as I've been aware of it.
They augment his ego. To have a good car, whatever he would regard as good, a good car is going to be complementary to his ego. It's going to be an extension of his image. And image was important to Bellfield.
For him, his vehicle was almost, again, like his base that he worked from.
Just 3 months after he'd mown down Kate Sheedy, Bellfield was already back on the hunt in his car. On the night of the 19th of August in 2004, he spotted French exchange student Amélie Delagrange getting off a bus near Twickenham Green. He brutally attacked her on the back of the head with a hammer. She died in a matter of hours.
Yes, his use of hammers, blunt force injury from behind, does seem to suggest somebody who really wasn't prepared to face his victims, who maybe wanted to dehumanize them even more by not even seeing their faces.
It's just a heavyweight tool, isn't it? But it's also a tool of power. It gives empowerment. It's also, in many ways, anonymous. But the real thing that it is intimately personal. I know he carried a baseball bat that he would use to intimidate, but that is nowhere nearly as close and as demeaning as hammering someone to death from behind.
I think there's a difference in quality between the nature of the rapes and the nature of the killings. Because the rapes came first, and they, in most cases, they should have been enough to satisfy him, but they weren't. So I think that the style of the killings kind of suggests that he wanted to obliterate an ongoing, difficult relationship in his mind.
Police investigators hunting the killer of Amélie Delagrange had no eyewitnesses, no DNA or forensics to go on. Desperate for leads, they began trawling through 2,000 hours of CCTV of the roads nearby the murders, hoping to find clues that would lead them to the killer before another life was lost.
Yes, I think the more experience of committing offences successfully that somebody has, the more likely they are to feel invincible and that they can get away with things, because it seems that demonstrably they have. And that might result in them turning their attention to, well, refining their technique still further, and feeling that in a situation where basically life is a matter of them against the world and they're here to take what they can, that they are able to get away with things because, well, they're superior.
He kept getting away with these offences, and he kept expecting, certainly in the early days, that he may well get a knock on his door, but he had so many lucky escapes that in itself will feed, especially someone with the personality profile of Bellfield, that will feed that already inherent confidence. I think that was his downfall as well, because while he was so familiar with his environments, what he wasn't perhaps thinking about so closely was that area of West London, like most of London, is surveyed all the time, not by people, but by technology.
The breakthrough came when a white van was spotted on CCTV parked nearby at the exact time of the attack on Amélie Delagrange. The van was linked to local wheel clamper, Levi Bellfield. Further CCTV research matched Bellfield's previous cars, placing him at the scene of the murder of Marsha McDonnell and the attempted murder of Kate Sheedy. The police were finally able to issue a warrant for Bellfield's arrest. As detectives searched the house, they found Bellfield hiding in the attic, alone.
Certainly the police were pleasantly surprised, I think, at the ease of the arrest. He would say he was prudently hiding himself. I think everybody else would say he was cowering. And that would certainly fit with what seems to be revealed of his psychology and the nature of the rapes and the murders.
Bellfield flatly refused to confess or comment on the heinous crimes he'd committed.
And at no stage over the last 2 days have you denied any involvement in these offences?
No comment.
Why is that, Levi?
No comment.
Why haven't you sat there and said, jumped up and down and shouted from the rooftops, you've got the wrong person?
No comment.
No comment, no comment, no comment, over and over again, to the point where you believed that he wasn't even listening to the questions that were being put to him. And once or twice, or maybe 3 or 4 times actually, but this would be over a period of hours, he would suddenly react to something, usually related to him personally, and you could see a trace of anger in his eye or a contempt towards the officers doing the interviewing, which was interesting in itself.
It can be a power play. You can say anything that you want. I'm going to show you that you can't bully me, I will hold my position. Or it can be that they are so nervous they don't know where they're going and they simply say no comment.
But perhaps the real reason for Bellfield's refusal to comment and the constant denials can once again be traced all the way back to his relationship with his mother.
A lot of people I have met and interviewed and gotten to know who were killers will continue to protest their innocence long beyond plausibility. And when asked about this and pressed about it, they say, I do it because I don't want my mother to know it was actually true.
He's not a terribly complicated person, Bellfield. He's not simple in the way that Fred West is, but he's not a complicated person. He's just not very attractive.
I think something that was very apparent with Levi Bellfield was there seemed to be a real arrogance, a real self-centeredness, and a sort of belief that he could do no wrong about him. And also a willingness to treat other people with, well, absolute contempt, really. In fact, some people have seen this as being at the core of psychopathy. Someone who grows up believing that it's a dog-eat-dog, law of the jungle, survival of the fittest kind of world, and that the only principle that makes sense in that kind of environment is to look after number one.
Bellfield was given a full life sentence for the murder of Marsha McDonnell and Amélie Delagrange, and the attempted murder of Kate Sheedy. 6 months after he was sentenced, Bellfield was further implicated in the murder of Millie Dowler. The police placed Bellfield near the scene using mobile phone records and CCTV of the car he was driving at the time. He was also discovered to have access to a flat within a stone's throw of where Millie was last seen. On the 23rd of June 2011, Bellfield was found guilty of the murder of Millie Dowler and given a further life sentence. Despite his conviction, Bellfield did not admit to Millie's murder and would not disclose any information surrounding her abduction and death until years later, when he finally confessed. The judge recommended that he's never to be released.
I know someone who used to be an officer in the prison where Bellfield now resides and will for some time. And he has carried on pretty much the way he was then. He's an arrogant, obnoxious, demanding, lying bully insofar as he can. He's converted to Islam as a deep religious act of faith. No, in fact, what he's done is what many inmates are doing and converting to Islam in order that they get out of work more often, they get better food and other privileges in prison life.
In my view, given the level of psychopathy that would appear to be writ large in his MO, I don't believe he could be treated. The only sense in which psychopaths can be treated is when it's in their interest to be seen to be treated.
It's surprisingly difficult to step away from macho bullshit. You might have to wait a few years for natural maturity to hopefully take place. But that would probably be on the basis of a sense of having sort of wasted time in life. I think if you wait for regret, it's going to be quite a long time.